Planit's step-by-step demonstration of how to draw a kitchen in Cabinet Vision using Solid Essential version 11. Here is a complete set of plans that show the design I will be demonstrating. You can print these off to use as a reference and follow along if you wish. To start a new job, select the New Job icon from the top toolbar on Cabinet Vision's startup screen. This opens the job properties, where you can enter and select information relevant to your job. Adding information to these fields is not specifically required in order to create a job. However, these fields can be referenced to in templates throughout Cabinet Vision, which gives you the advantage of automatically providing information when producing drawings or reports. Here is where you can also make selections for default room finishes and wall sizing, as well as for the floor and wall carcass materials, hardware such as handles, and door styles and materials. Cabinet sizing and countertop selections can also be selected here before you commence the job to ensure maximum efficiency when drawing. These selections can always be accessed and modified whilst you are working on your job as well. Once in the job, select the wall option from the sidebar to begin drawing your layout. Using the standard wall type, I will select the Change Line option because I will be drawing multiple walls. With a single left click on the page to start and set the first wall point, I will then drag the cursor in the direction I want the wall to run, type the length of the wall in millimeters, and hit enter to complete the first wall. Because I am using a chained line, the wall automatically continues from this endpoint to create a corner without having to click again to start the next wall. Follow these steps for each wall. Drag the cursor in the direction you want the wall to run, type the length of the wall and hit enter to end it. To stop the walls from continuing, right click with the mouse to drop the chained line option and then right click again to choose Select to restore your cursor back to its original state. Now, if we need to correct any sizes for the wall, a left click on the wall brings up its properties where adjustments to the sizing can be made as required. When you have finished drawing walls, you can return to your main plan. At Plan View, there is an option to turn on the grid of your page if preferred. The grid enables us to see the page centre, which is indicated by the light blue cross section on the page. I will select Modification from the main toolbar and then choose to Centre Room, which will automatically position the drawing so that when in 3D view, the room will rotate evenly on the centre axis. The grid does not need to be turned on to use the Centre Room feature. To draw an island bench in this kitchen plan, go back into Wall Mode and change the standard wall type to Peninsula. In this example, I am locating the first peninsula wall at the end of a standard wall, as I intend on using this first wall as a guide to help me position my island. The next peninsula wall will actually be the island in which I place my cabinets on. Peninsula walls are drawn in the same way as standard walls. A single left click at the start and end point of each wall, and then right clicking to end the continuation and right clicking again to choose Select to return to the standard cursor. Once you have the walls drawn, you can start placing cabinets in the room. I like to start at the corners, but depending on each design, you will find your own preferences to increase efficiency in drawing. The cabinet library is accessed by selecting Objects on the sidebar and then Custom Cabinets. In the tall corner category, you will find a 45-degree pantry cabinet. Left click on the cabinet name, hold and drag it out onto the page. Release the button on your mouse and an outline of the cabinet will appear for you to use as a reference when positioning the cabinet. Corner cabinets will always want to attach to the right-hand wall of a corner because Cabinet Vision considers the right back of a corner cabinet the width and the left back the depth. The envelope outline indicates which wall the object is referencing to before you place it. When you are happy that the cabinet is referencing the correct wall, left-click once more to attach it to the wall and drop it into position. Now the cabinet is on the plan, a simple left click on the cabinet will bring up the cabinet properties on the left of the screen where details of the cabinet can be edited. I am making this cabinet wider and deeper as it is going to be a walk-in pantry. When a cabinet is selected like this, you can also right-click to bring up cabinet options. Selecting Edit here gives me the same result as if I were to double-click on the cabinet, which is that the cabinet will open up in Cabinet Editor. This is where it can be modified more specifically and viewed in more detail. Here, the doors and shelves can be deleted to strip back the unit to an empty carcass. Then, the case properties can be customised to remove the bottom panel and the entire toe kick so that the cabinet ends are now sitting on the floor. By highlighting the section face of the cabinet, one click over on the left adds a pair of doors, and then by entering the section interior, shelves and partitions can be added and modified individually like this, or as a group so they become evenly spaced. You can also modify things like door gaps, and because there is no bottom on this cabinet, I will increase the door gap near the floor by adding a bottom adjustment to the door. Once you have finished in the cabinet editor, you can return to the main plan. The scroll wheel on your mouse can be held in like a button to grab the entire plan and move it around for viewing, or under the zoom options on the main toolbar, all can be chosen to redraw the entire plan into view. While we are here, we will add a tall panel either side of the pantry by selecting it from the objects list and dragging it onto the page. Because there is a fridge space to the right of the pantry and therefore another panel will be needed, we can simply select this panel, right-click and copy to duplicate it. Now the distance between the two panels is visible, so if you select the one on the right, you can modify the clearance to the left of it in its properties. This will give us an accurate spacing for our fridge, which can also be viewed in elevation. Cabinets can also be placed in elevation. Sorting through the custom cabinet library on the sidebar, select a 2-door wall cabinet and drag and drop it overlapping the left-hand panel so that it butts to it. The upper cabinet can then be selected with a single left click, and using the stretch points it can be extended to the right to fill the gap entirely. The height and outset of the wall cabinet can also easily be modified to suit the fridge space required, and so that the face of the doors sits flush with the tall panels either side. Lastly, the shelves can be removed or modified by double-clicking on the cabinet to access Cabinet Editor and using the Section Interior options. Select Return to go back to the main plan when you are done adjusting the cabinet, and you can view your design so far in 3D. Left-click and hold to rotate the view, and use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. You can also change the render mode of your view, which allows you to view your design in a fill mode instead of as an outline. Now I will fill the space to the left of the pantry with other cabinets. From the library, I will drag and drop a 3-drawer base cabinet onto the plan. Typically, you would overlap the outline of this cabinet when placing it with the object you'd like it to sit next to. But if you drop the drawer bank onto the wall and there is a space remaining between the objects, simply select the drawer bank and make the right clearance 0, which will move it hard to the panel on the right. Now adjust the width to the left so that the positioning against the panel is not affected. Double-click to enter Cabinet Editor, and on the section face you can make changes to the drawer front heights as required. To make the top drawer smaller, I will right-click and turn off the Equalize Height option so that only the 2 bottom drawers remain equalized. Then, by adjusting the height of the top drawer on the sidebar, the other drawers below will adjust automatically to suit. Return to the main plan and then copy and paste the item to duplicate it. An underbench oven unit will be going next to these pot drawers, so taking that into consideration, we can drop a 3rd drawer bank roughly where we need it to be. Then modify the clearance to allow the exact spacing required to place the oven unit later. I will make these drawers slightly wider. Then simply copy and paste again to quickly add another. Now a base end panel can be positioned at the exposed end of the cabinet run. To build the underbench oven unit, drag and drop a cabinet into position. Because the correct spacing was already allowed for, the unit will shrink to fit perfectly. Double-click to open Cabinet Editor. Delete all face and interior parts to create an empty carcass. Split the face to create 2 sections. The top section will be a fascia panel, which can be adjusted here. The bottom section will be an opening for the appliance to sit in. The width is already correct, but the opening for the oven needs to be 600 high. So by amending this section height first, it means that the fascia panel size above will adjust automatically to suit. Return out of Cabinet Editor. Now that the floor cabinets are all in position, it makes it easy to align the wall cabinets above. Working from the oven cabinet centre position, we can start by finding a canopy range hood from the library and dropping it into place. This appliance's elevation and centre clearance can easily be adjusted using the properties on the sidebar to achieve the exact positioning over the underbench oven unit, even though the cooktop and oven have not actually been placed yet. Now a wall end panel can be dropped either side of the canopy and the clearances can be entered before dropping wall cabinet units into place. Given that this area looks a little small for 4 doors, and rather than use a calculator to work out what the sizing would need to be for 3 doors, simply right click and split the cabinets to get 3 wall cabinets instead of 2. Then hold Ctrl down on the keyboard while you select each of these 3, and right click again to select Equalize Width. You can then right click holding Ctrl to combine 2 of them to create a single cabinet with paired doors. Then double click on the other cabinet to change it from a pair to a single door in Cabinet Editor. Returning to the main plan, you can see how quickly it is to make adjustments when needed. Once again, the copy and paste feature makes it very quick to duplicate cabinets and panels. To create some floating shelves at the end of the wall cabinet run, I will start with a shelf over from the wall special category in the custom cabinet library. I'll drag and drop the shelf so that it is positioned hard against the panel, and then stretch it into the corner fully so that it is the complete width of the remaining space available. Now by looking at the clearance from the base end panel below, and knowing that the distance of my benchtop overhang will eventually be 10mm, I can enter these amounts as an equation into the object width field to calculate my finished size. I'll then adjust my object height to be the material thickness that I intend on making the shelf from, and the object depth to be flush with the wall end panel, not the carcass depth. I will right click to edit the shelf, and on the face of the shelf I will change the material type to suit. Returning to plan, I will now adjust the elevation of the shelf to position it at the correct height on the wall itself. Copy and paste the shelf to quickly duplicate it. Then adjust the elevation and width of the new shelf to suit the design. With the wall cabinets complete, I'll move on to the island bench. You can position and modify objects on the peninsula wall using the same methods just shown. A dishwasher from the appliance catalogue should be placed and adjusted in size to match our base cabinets, which assists the auto-build countertop feature I will use shortly. It can be positioned from the end of the wall to allow enough space for a waterfall end to match the benchtop thickness. Copy and paste the waterfall end to the other side of the island, then drag and drop floor cabinets in between as required. Stretching is a fast way to fill any small gaps. Then right click and equalising cabinet widths saves you having to manually calculate sizing for equal doors. From floor plan, the height of the peninsula wall can be changed to suit the finished benchtop height, which will give a precise elevation view. Now that the island is taking some shape, the measure tool can be used for you to get an idea of its position in the room. If it needs to be moved left or right, the initial peninsula wall we drew, the one attached to the standard wall, can be modified in length to control the position. This method is a simple suggestion which can give you more controlled placement rather than freehand positioning of island benches. When you are happy with a position, just right click on the wall you don't need anymore and delete it. Now that the base cabinet layout is complete, the Auto Build countertop feature will add benchtops to your design automatically. From the main floor plan, select Tops from the sidebar. Select Auto Build Tops for the entire room. You can select each section of top to highlight its outline, and if you need to amend any joins or overhang, right-click and select Edit Shape. Edges can be moved parallel and extended to create overhang. Select the edge and zoom in to find the small drag icon. Left-click on the black mark to pick up the edge. Drag it in the direction you want the overhang to form. Type the distance you want to move the edge and you will see the offset option on the sidebar update. Then hit enter. This completes the modification. While the edge is still selected, the edge type can also be changed. To save your changes, select Return. In elevation view, this new overhang will now be visible. Let's focus on the island benchtop now. Making sure you are in floor plan to access the Tops mode, right-click on the benchtop to edit the shape. The benchtop juts out over the waterfall ends because we told the system in our job properties at the beginning that we want to add 40mm overhang to our carcasses when using the Auto Build Countertop feature. To correct this, simply use the Delete tool to remove any unwanted CAD lines from the current shape. Then, with the snap points turned on, select the endpoint of the front counter edge and drag it to align with the end. Then select the endpoint of the end counter edge and drag it to align with the front edge. Having the snap points on should make this really easy, as you will feel the CAD lines jump into position themselves. You can always check if the shape is closed, meaning the lines have joined correctly, before you return out of the shape editor and save your new benchtop shape. The back edge can also be dragged out to create any overhang at the back of the island. In this case, I will move the edge out 600, as I intend on placing more floor cabinets at the back of this island bench. Let's take another look at how it's coming together. To complete the island, I want to place cabinets on the back of the wall under the extended benchtop. To achieve this, I need to draw a second peninsula wall in exactly the same location as the first island, but running in the opposite direction. This will mean that looking down from floor plan view, there will be two walls on top of each other. One wall facing inwards towards the kitchen, and the second wall facing away from the kitchen. It will be obvious if this has been done correctly by the overlapping dimensions and wall numbers. If the wall numbers are not visible, they can be turned on in the plan's layer properties when you edit the annotations and tick Show Wall Labels. In elevation view of Wall 8, the back wall, you can see what looks like a waterfall end and a cabinet to the left. This is actually a cross-section of the objects on Wall 7, the first peninsula wall. When we snapped the second peninsula wall to the first, the system assumed that at that join we intended to create a corner, so it did this automatically. Technically, I guess you could say that it is a 360-degree corner because the wall was folded back all the way onto the first wall. It is not essential, but to remove this connection, and therefore the visible cross-section, simply select one of the walls in floor plan view and disconnect the left or right ends as required. With no connections, Cabinet Vision will not recognise a corner and will no longer automate cross-sections for any objects at the ends of these walls. Alternatively, when you place objects on the wall, if you are viewing or working in fill mode, you won't be able to see through the cross-section anyway. Viewing in fill mode can be helpful when there are too many lines visible in wire mode. The viewing mode can be changed back and forth in all views of Cabinet Vision as often as required. While here, I will fill the back of the island on Wall 8 with floor cabinets. I will position the first 40mm from the left to allow for the waterfall end thickness, and another with the same clearance at the right.
By stretching each towards each other to fill the gap, I can then quickly see the approximate sizing of each cabinet and its doors. By right-clicking on one of them and selecting Split to give me 3 cabinets, I can then hold the Control key down on the keyboard while I select the others, and then I can quickly equalise the widths of all 3 so that the system calculates the sizing automatically. Now, instead of placing more waterfall ends, the original ones can just be modified. I'll adjust the depth and give the waterfall end a negative outset to position them correctly on the island. Time to place some tall pantry cabinets. Start by placing one on the first wall and making sure the width and depth are correct. I can change the depth here for a narrow pantry, but if I want all future tall cabinets to come out the same, the job properties can be opened and the tall depth size should be adjusted here. This will save me having to modify each tall object I bring out from now on. To create a new angled cabinet at this 45-degree corner, I will place another single door cabinet on the adjacent wall. Making the cabinet widths the size that I want my door openings to be, I can then position them to butt together by making the clearance of each into the corner 0. The system will automatically allow for the correct spacing from the wall end because of the depths of the cabinets. Once they are positioned correctly, I can right-click on one of the cabinets and select Combine, then Assemblies, then left-click on the other cabinet. You can now see this has created just one cabinet in the corner. The cabinet defaults as an empty carcass, so double-click to go into Cabinet Editor. On the left section face, I can add a door, hinging from the right, and on the right section face, also add a door, hinging from the right, but I'll remove the handle from this door by making the quantity 0. Going into section interior of either face will allow horizontal shelves to be added that automatically take the shape of the cabinet. Returning to floor plan, you will notice the door annotations show you the hinge direction. The hinge location of this door can be amended in the drawings page before printing. To finish the pantries, I will place a 2-door tall cabinet and then a single door cabinet, which will be made into a broom cupboard. But first I will right click on it to change the door hinge direction by selecting Rehinge. Now double click to go to Cabinet Editor. My door is correct on the face, so by selecting the section interior option, I can delete all the shelves, then add only one new fixed shelf. I'll click in the space below the shelf to adjust the height and lock it so that it does not change if any other modifications might be made. Adding a vertical division gives me 2 sections below the shelf, where I can now make adjustments or additions to either space as required. After returning to the plan, I will place tall end panels at each end of the tall cabinets. Now it's time to add any appliances that are still required, such as the sink and cooktop. When placing an appliance into or over a cabinet, the Control key must be held down on the keyboard to force the system to overlap the items. Once overlapping, the objects can still be selected and modified individually to get sizing or positioning correct. To change the type of handle on an individual cabinet, it can simply be modified in Cabinet Editor on the properties of the door. Double-click to go into Cabinet Editor, highlight the section face, right-click, Select Properties, go to Pools and select a new handle here. To remove handles altogether to give the visual representation of a touch catch, simply make the quantity 0. Instead of making the same change to these identical cabinets, I will just delete the old ones and copy and paste the amended one. These kind of changes can be made at any stage throughout the drawing process. Once happy with the layout, we can make any final touches before printing the design. To add splashbacks, you can go back to Tops from the floor plan, right-click on the piece of counter and select Edit Shape to modify the benchtop edge type. You can then return out of Shape Editor and right-click on the countertop to view the properties and make sure the splashback options are set as required. Splashbacks can then be seen in elevation view and also in 3D view. To add skirting, from floor plan you can select mouldings from the sidebar. Having the snap points turned on here makes it very easy to position the moulding. Select the type as baseboard for skirting and make sure you have highlighted the wall you want to attach it to by clicking in front of that wall to see the dotted outline. Zooming in can be helpful, then select New Moulding and begin to draw your skirting into position. If you are using the chain line command, left-click to position each point and right-click to end the continuation and right-click again and choose Select to refresh your cursor when you are finished. Return out of the drawing mode and save the shape to then view your skirting on your plan. Continue this for all sections of skirting required. A floor can be drawn using the program's Auto Build feature, likewise with a ceiling. Windows and/or doors can be also added at any stage throughout the drawing process. And finally, decorative objects can be added to enhance your project and give your design a sense of character and perspective. Any plan or view can be sent to a drawings page for presentation and printing by right-clicking on the view and selecting To Drawing. Then, once in the Drawings tab, your view will be accessible as a scene in the side panel and it can be dragged out and positioned onto a page with your customised title block. Colours and textures may default from the setup in your materials catalogue, or you can make selections from the side panel in 3D. For feature items, such as the floating shelves, you may wish to individually modify these colours or textures in Cabinet Editor of those objects. For rendering, once colours have been selected, the lighting can also be modified from 3D view, and then the photo vision options can be selected. You will also find a variety of reports available by going into the Reports tab from your main work screen. For more specific tips and training on many different features that may be found in different levels of cabinet vision, be sure to visit the tutorials page on our website.